I think a lot of people feel like that.
Yeah,
I think
that's
you're
exactly.
not.
Yes.
You're not in the minority. When
Yeah, that's why a
saying
lot of
that.
people don't like it.
An Alabama Take projection.
Hey, welcome to Taking It Down, the TV and streaming podcast from the Alabama Take. We give thoughts that range from complex to simple, from analytical to basic about shows and movies on TV. I'm Blaine Duncan, editor-in-chief of the website The Alabama Take. I've always enjoyed determining why I like and dislike things, and I have a little bit of a side hustle as an English teacher, so hopefully that lends itself to our busy listeners who want some insight. It's great for listeners that it's not just me breaking down what you want to know. It's Adam Morrow, our erudite touring and studio musician who keeps up with fine literature, Donovan Reinwald, who specializes in media at a New England college and loves film, old books, and more. And Natalie Morrow. She's the first person to go to about fantasy, sci-fi, comics, trashy reality TV, and Beyonce's music. We're here for lovers of television who are just too busy for anything more than the series or movie itself, or maybe for the person who just does not want the typical critic or Hollywood-adjacent analysis. Plus, like a lot of Alabama Take productions, we're high quality. We actually think. Let's get into the show. Alright, folks, you hear the usual crew at the top of the show. They're not here, it's just me. But someone is a regular. Ty Edmondson's back.
Hi, what's up?
That's you.
That's me. I am
You're
Ty
back
Edmondson.
Yeah. Well, I think the last time you were on is August?
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
It was, we talked about beef.
Well, it seems like you were
We talked about beef.
after.
We talked about Tim Robinson.
Oh, yeah, that could have been August then.
I think it was.
Regular listeners recognize your voice, though.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You need no introduction. We got Ty on, and he and I are going to recap some of our delights of the year. This episode may stretch a little beyond our usual TV talk, TV and streaming. We'll get into some of our favorites and maybe even some of our not-so-favorites broadly in culture. When it comes to TV and movies, some of it actually might be streaming at this point. We'll see what happens. No sense in bearing the lead. You're one of our movie guys.
Yeah, big time.
Let's talk movies. What'd you
right,
love? What'd you hate? You give me a good rundown of what you thought was worthy
I can
of.
give you some.
What's worthy of talking about or seeing? What did we miss?
Worthy of seeing for sure that a lot of people definitely missed. Past Lives was a foreign, could be wrong, Korean film, which I think it was actually, it's mostly in English, so it's kind of a mix. But
That's what I was thinking, yeah.
It's my favorite movie of the year, I'd say.
Past Lives. I saw it garner a little of attention here and there, just mainly media and critics, but what'd you like about it?
I rarely really fall in love with like romance stories in terms of like in film, and something about a romance story that is so non-traditional in the way of like how it approaches its characters, because like the premise is these two people like fall in love as kids and then they grow apart because they like move to separate parts of the world, and then they reconvene for like a couple of days, and it kind of goes into like, title kind of gives it away, where like it really does truly go into the philosophy of past lives and like kind of the beauty of like the concept of past lives, and like how love like travels through separate people, and how love like it's very determined by like a thing. It's not like just random. And I thought that was really beautiful. It's so, I think it's a debut film as well, which is just crazy to me because of how good it looks and how amazing the performances are, and the pacing is so good. Like the pacing is exactly what I want a very emotional movie to feel like. Like I didn't feel like I ever got bored during it when there's constant things going on and constant things that I can sink my teeth into. It's definitely one of those that you can write an essay about. It's for sure like it's one that I could record an entire YouTube video about dissecting. It was one of my favorites. And another one that a lot of people didn't see that is a little controversial, Beau is Afraid, Ari Aster's newest film. Yeah. I really loved it. I thought it was great.
Joaquin Phoenix, right?
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. He was the lead actor, and I thought it was great. I've gotten so much out of it, and it inspired me a lot to write more this year. It's a long one too. It's one that I wouldn't really recommend a lot of people. Like if I know you're into film and I talk to you often and I know what kind of movies you do like, I'll probably recommend Beau's Afraid if it matches up. But it's definitely one that I wouldn't recommend to like everyone. Like someone to just sit down one night and like watch it, because it is like 3.5 hours, I think, like 3 hours and 10 minutes or something like that, and it's experimental. It's not like Ari Aster's other work. I to me, Beau's Afraid felt like what Ari Aster has written, like has kind of his dream project. It really felt like something he like wanted to make so bad and wasn't getting archetyped as like horror. Like I feel like he really wanted to break out of that like Hereditary and Midsommar field that he was in at the time, which is a great field to be in. He's still revolutionizing the horror genre like right now. But I think this was a perfect breakaway into another genre of like dark comedy, and I'm very excited to kind of see where he goes with that.
But we got Past Lives,
Mm-hmm.
Beau Was Afraid. Anything else that you loved? You saw Oppenheimer. That was
I did.
big.
I did.
That's a big one. What'd you think about? Let's go big blockbuster, but also maybe good. What'd you think?
I thought it was great. I thought
Yeah.
both Oppenheimer and Barbie were fantastic. You can't really like with them releasing on the same day and stuff, and like all the memes and like general like internet like flood of Barbie and Oppenheimer, you can't not talk about both of them. In terms of blockbuster, I haven't seen something that I expected to like Oppenheimer a lot, and I
Mhm.
left the theater liking it even more than I expected to. Like, I think Oppenheimer as a person is such an interesting individual to like break down and have a biopic
Yeah.
about, especially in a time where biopics are so formulaic. And Christopher Nolan directing that is also another like, because if you talk to me for long enough, you'll kind of hear my pretentious take on Christopher Nolan, which is that I love his movies, but I don't really like him. I get annoyed with him very easily, in the sense of I feel like Christopher Nolan thinks he's the smartest person alive. Like I really think he thinks his films are like the smartest creations like known to man, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's good to have confidence in yourself, but I just personally don't like him as much as other people do. But Oppenheimer is so like a very good return, or not even return to form, a very good like breakaway from what
Yeah.
I've seen of his other stuff, and I felt like he would do really good with it, and he did better than I expected him to, and I loved
Yeah.
it. I definitely like it a little more than Barbie, which two completely different things, I know, but
Sure.
I think it's definitely in my top 5 of the year.
What about Barbie?
Barbie is like on my list on Letterboxd, literally right behind it. I watched Barbie with my mom, and she loved it, which I think made me love it a little more, because it was like right before I moved to college, and that was like a very cool experience watching it with her and watching how much like she loved it. But I just thought in general, just it is a comedy movie that pulls off emotional beats so well. Like even saying this from a man's perspective, which this movie clearly was not, it wasn't made for Blaine and Ty to say, but the most about. But I loved it in the sense of it was a movie that could have been so easily branded towards children, and it wasn't. And I saw so many kids in the theater, and they were loving it. Like they
Yeah.
were having a great time. And I think there's so much that you can get out of it, both from an adult's perspective and from like, oh, this is fun. This is literally a Barbie and Ken. Like Ryan Gosling is playing a hilarious role. Margot Robbie's doing fantastic. Will Ferrell's doing great as well when he wants to be. Like it's funny, and then you have Michael Cera just being Michael Cera again for the 15th time, and he does it perfectly. But then you have like I always mispronounce her name. I think it's America Ferrell or America. I don't. You know who I'm talking about.
I do.
But she has this fantastic speech in it, like a monologue essentially that's like great, and talks about like women's struggles in the modern age, and like how the misconception of like women and like how they view themselves. And you have here you have like Margot Robbie playing a Barbie that like is under the assumption that she's like solved feminism, like she's solved the problem, like she's like
Solved
everyone
the
is
problem
perfect.
feminism was trying to address.
Yes.
Right,
She's
yeah.
solved everything. Like she feels like, well, Barbie did that, and I think that was a great theme to have. And It's only made funnier by where we live. I heard a lot of backlash from it, being like it's this liberal propaganda of this and this and this and that, and like it's not. Like it's not. I loved hearing that in a kind of funny way as well. But yeah, I thought it was great. I had a lot of fun with it, and I got a lot out of it, more than I expected to, for sure.
There were other, not only Greta Gerwig and Christopher Nolan, there were other big directors. Did you see, I'm just going to list a few off and you tell me what you thought. Did you watch the Wes Anderson Collection from Netflix, the short films?
I have not. I've really been meaning, I've been meaning to get around to it because I've heard great things about it. I did watch Asteroid City, and I loved it.
Well, there was also that.
I've seen Asteroid City 3 times, I think.
Yeah.
And it's great.
You liked it, right?
Yeah, it's great. I really like it. I think it's, again, I think it's Wes Anderson. I think it's Wes Anderson doing Wes Anderson. I don't think he's stepping out of the boundaries much, but he always incites great performances. He always makes something nice to look at. He makes something fun, makes something funny. He has his own comedic style that I really love and that I can only really find in him. And I found that in Asteroid City, and that's kind of all I was asking for. So I was happy with it.
I said 3 films. There were 4, counting. Yeah.
Have you seen all those?
Yes.
How did you feel about them? I want to hear something about them.
My overall take on Wes Anderson, especially in the last 5 films he's made, is maybe 4, if we're not counting the Netflix as a group of 1. It's just a little Wes Anderson goes a long way for me. I always feel like I'm not in on the joke with Wes Anderson. I always feel like I'm missing something. I feel like an idiot watching Wes Anderson movies is one. I don't like anything that makes me feel dumb. And I feel dumb watching them because I'm like, is that supposed to be funny?
I'm going to be honest. I think a lot of people feel like that.
Yeah,
I think
that's
you're
exactly.
You're not in the minority when
that's
saying
why a lot
that.
of people don't like him.
Yeah,
But I like him for the appreciation of his compositions, that's also cliche to say. Now, with these 3 movies, which were, oh gosh, what were they, 20 minutes at the most?
Yeah, I think so.
Man, they were so perfect for him. That's
what
the
I've
way
heard.
to watch. For me, that's the way to watch a Wes Anderson movie.
I have heard that, actually.
I do like them a lot, and I liked. I think they're a little darker than his usual stuff. Yeah, so I did like that. Another one of our favorites, I think both of our favorites, David Fincher had The Killer. Also, if you notice, I lean heavy on streaming because this is the majority of what makes up our podcast here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Did you see The Killer?
I did.
Yeah,
I loved it.
Loved it.
Me
too.
Thought it was great. I love. I'm also blanking on his name.
Fassbender.
Yeah, I love him, and I wish he acted in more. I haven't seen Shame. It made me really want to watch Shame. I don't know if you've seen that
no.
yourself. I think he plays a sex addict.
Yeah.
And I've heard great things about that. Yeah. I have too. But yeah, The Killer I thought was fantastic. I thought it was a film that is supposed to be so calculated and like perfect, essentially. It felt like that. And I love that. And I love Fincher. His style stays. I mean, I have a Fight Club poster in the back. But his style, I cannot talk. His style stays with The Killer. And it's one of those movies that I feel like if you like Fincher's other stuff, you're going to like The Killer. And it's that simple.
And if you're on the fence on Fincher, I don't know that you'd love The Killer.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's not one that I would be like, oh, if you're trying to get into Fincher films, start with The Killer.
No.
No.
This isn't 7.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
exactly.
it's a little bit more deliberately structured, a little drawn out a little.
I agree.
Yeah. The other big director I was going to bring up was Ridley Scott. Did you see Napoleon?
I did.
Where are you on that?
I disliked it.
Okay, that's fair.
I left the theater. I liked it. I left the theater, and I use Letterboxd a lot. I think I rated it 3.5 out of 5 when I left.
Me too. Well, no, I think I did a straight 3. If anybody cares about ratings, I did a straight 3 on it. But for maybe different reasons than you. Let's hear what you got.
So I rated it a 3, and then I was thinking about it more, And it was funny because I went to go and hang out with friends that night, and I was like, hey, I just watched Napoleon, and I was talking to them about it, and then I was like, would I recommend this to someone? Like, would I like recommend that they go out of their way to watch this, especially like since it's not on anything right now? And I was like, I really wouldn't.
Mm-mm.
And that really brought it down for me. And like the more and more I thought about it, I was like, this was kind of annoying, and it was kind of like drawn out, and like I feel like I don't really know that much more about Napoleon than I did when I started, and like I more and more it brought it down kind of like 2 stars, 2.5 stars out of 5 for me now if we're going by ratings. But again, I thought Joaquin did great. I love him as an actor. I think he did fantastic. I think the choice to also I don't know her name and I didn't look it up afterwards, but the woman that plays his first wife,
Josephine.
Yeah, Josephine. She did fantastic. I loved her in that. I thought
she's
she
pretty
was
renowned.
Yeah, I haven't seen her in much else. I'm sure I have, but I haven't really recognized it. But she was great. She was fantastic. I thought that was great. I thought the performances in general were good. I thought the
Vanessa
writing.
Kirby, by the way, is just to insert her name.
One thing that really killed it for me was the writing. I thought the writing was kind of shabby. I didn't really find a whole lot to pick apart and love in the writing like I do with other things, coming from a writer's perspective. I thought the action like set pieces were cool. I think especially the one on the frozen lake is fantastic. I think the shot of under the water when like all the soldiers are falling in, that's like crazy to me. Like that's such a cool visual. I thought all that was done very well, directed very well. But I just noticed, like, as I was getting towards the end, I was like, I just kind of want this to end. I don't really I'm not really getting much out of this anymore. And I feel like to me, Napoleon is one of those movies that attempts to view a historical figure in a different way, by kind of going over his like intense need for an heir and like that being what he needs. But to me, it was so over focused on that. Like I felt like the only thing that I heard him and Josephine talking about was an heir. Like I felt like it wasn't a real relationship in any way, shape, or form. And obviously, like they're not. See, like you could make the argument, well, they're not trying to make a movie about like Napoleon and Josephine, but to me, that's like
that's been done.
What 70% of this movie was like. I felt like that was what they were trying to do more with it.
I thought it did a good job of giving me a good bullet point of what Napoleon did. So I did think I learned a little bit about it because European history's way beyond my grasp.
Yeah.
And it didn't click for me thoroughly until the divorce scene. And I was like, oh, I think I get it. I think I get he really did kind of love her, and the whole heir thing was being pushed by the country and his mom, and like maybe that wasn't even as important to him as
I really think that flew over my head, honestly, because I think I in like
the divorce has some real pathos. If you go back and watch that scene, it like you're like, oh crap, that kind of didn't really want to do that. Oh,
I think I definitely could pick up on that if I wasn't so annoyed by it at that point. I think I really was watching it at that point, and I was like, I'm just kind of done with it. Like, I watched it with my parents, and like I was excited that we were getting out of the house, and my dad loved it, and I thought like we were getting out of the house and enjoying it, and like, it was fun. Like I enjoyed watching the movie, but afterwards I was like, it's just like kind of it's a little boring, and like I didn't really care about it as much as I thought I would, because I like Napoleon as a historical figure. I think he's super interesting, and I think this did do a good job of showing how interesting of a figure he is. Especially did a little more. I just felt like it wasn't really. It felt very by the books. I didn't feel like it was stepping out of its safety box as much as I would have liked it to.
Yeah. Huh. Yeah, no, I can agree on a lot of those, but it was okay. I went on Thanksgiving Day because my family was out of town, and I decided not to commit to any other familial obligations. Brilliant way to spend, and I'm not. There's no sarcasm there. Yeah. Brilliant. I'm going to the movies every Thanksgiving. I'm not going anywhere else.
No, that seems nice. That seems nice.
It was me and about 3 other olds in there.
Referring to him as old.
Olds. Mhm. Oh, I'm one.
Oh, that's
Don't
good.
get me wrong. I'm one. Uh,
I also had quite a funny experience watching that movie because sitting directly beside me, so my parents are on my right side, and
Okay.
sitting directly beside me was probably like a 10-year-old, like 10 or 11-year-old,
like
maybe
child?
yeah, like maybe 12.
Okay. Because I didn't know I didn't know where the
around
blank
there.
was going there. Like a monkey? Is it a
Yeah,
10-year-old
yeah,
monkey or a
no,
dog?
yeah. Sorry, child.
Okay. Fair.
But and during any sexual scene or anything, the mom would like reach over and literally do this, like
of
literally
course.
like put the eyes over, and I like saw it out of the corner of my eye a couple times. I was like, like I get that, man. That was me. That was me,
Yeah.
man. I get it.
I was
But that
there.
was a little funny to me.
That's why I never watched television with my parents, by the way. It's still to this day. All right, let's shift gears. Television. Honestly, the two you're probably going to mention are the two you were actually on this podcast to talk about: Barry and Beef.
Yep.
Yeah,
Those are top. Tim Robinson's right under it, I think. For me, which I also was on this podcast to talk about. But I've actually been rewatching Beef. I've been rewatching Beef and Barry.
Really?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. So, my girlfriend hasn't seen Beef, and
there you go.
I was like, you have to watch it. Like,
I recommended Beef to someone in the last couple of weeks, and they started it. I don't know if they ever landed on an opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see.
I still love it. I still like am laughing at it. I still think about it. It's still one that's stuck in my mind. And same with Barry. Barry is top 3 shows of all time for me, really and truly. Succession was so fantastic this year as well. I had a great time with that. I watched all of it this year.
Those are definitely the best. Did you end up watching all of it?
Yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah,
yeah, it's early in the year.
It's good too. It's great. Even especially coming from a person who loves the video game and like everything released with it and stuff. I really loved it. I thought it was great. I thought it not only paid great like homage to the first game, but also built off of it. And Pedro Pascal has quickly become an actor that I'm looking at a lot more. I really enjoy his stuff.
I do too.
Yeah, it was great.
Were you in on the Ted Lasso final season?
I was not.
Okay.
I've heard great things about it though.
The first season's killer. The second and third are, your mileage will vary on that.
Gotcha.
On those two. Yeah, okay. I thought that those would be your television picks, having been on here before, specifically to talk about them.
What are yours?
Well,
what's your top?
I'm going to sit on mine. I usually do a list around New Year's. I'll sit on mine for a minute, but I'll tease this because I don't know exactly where I'm going to put it. It's Reservation Dogs.
Oh, yeah, you mentioned that to me. I've heard great things about that.
It's so different for a coming of age bit, and it requires a little bit of sitting with.
I've heard really fantastic things about it, yeah.
At least the first few episodes of season 1. And there's only 3, and it's wrapped this year. The 3rd season aired, and it just requires a little sitting with, especially those first half of season 1. You have to walk away from it, I think, for a little bit and go, oh, okay, this is what they're doing. Native American kids in Oklahoma, and it's funny, but it's pretty heartbreaking in a way, but not like you're probably going to expect. Yeah, I think this final third season might rank pretty high. We'll see where it lands.
Great, yeah.
My list will come out after this podcast, so I'll sit on that for a bit. Yeah, any books? I know books are tricky because it's hard to get around to reading the current books sometimes.
Yeah, I'm still just trying to get into reading as a whole because I really like every time I've gone out of my way to read something, I've loved it. Like I've loved like every book that I've like actually spent time with. I haven't read anything that released this year.
It can be, yeah, that can be the trick with reading, but anything good you read this year, even if it's 30 years old or 100 years old?
I read, and it's making me forget the name of it now. It's a William Gibson book, Neuromancer. I read Neuromancer this year, which is it kind of created the cyberpunk genre, which is like kind of what Blade Runner's set in, similar to like that kind of setting. It was very influential in terms of that. It's very goofy to the point, or like to the degree of like classic sci-fi, like kind of talk. Like we have to go to the neurotransmitter of the like. I'm hacking into the. There's definitely some of that, like a bit of that for sure. Like photon core processor, like stuff like that. There's like it's full of that, but it's also full of like a really great ending and like characters that I like. Something you've probably heard of as well. That it's an offshoot of, or is an offshoot of it is Johnny. It was a Keanu Reeves movie. It's
Johnny. Oh my God, we're both blanky.
Yeah,
Johnny Mnemonic.
Mnemonic, yes, and that short story is also great. I read that this year and I really enjoyed it. I was very into sci-fi books this year, trying to get into that.
Interesting.
Because I thought in my head, I was like, well, I like sci-fi games and I like sci-fi movies. I feel like I would enjoy a sci-fi book, and I read Neuromancer and I loved it. And then I read Johnny Mnemonic, the short story, and it's kind of an offshoot of that, and I really enjoyed that as well.
Same author, or
I don't know if it's the same author.
I could be
wrong. Let me see real quick.
You're out of my wheelhouse with some of this genre, this really specific type of sci-fi genre.
Yeah, I really enjoy that setting, and that's kind of definitely what drew me to it. Let me see. It's all just pulling up Keanu Reeves' face. Yeah, William Gibson. Yeah, he also wrote that. So yeah, perfect.
I did actually get around to reading a little bit more recent books than I thought. Maybe more this year than I ever have. I'll make a few recommendations for listeners. These are actually kind of new. The Creative Act, A Way of Being by Rick Rubin. You got to read it. You personally, Ty, have to read it.
I know I do, yeah.
Short chapters, 2 pages at the most each chapter, but each is filled with these tidbits of information to apply to creating anything. If you're writing an essay, or if you're working on nonfiction or fiction or songwriting, heavy on songwriting, I mean, name it. He's got an idea for you, and a lot of good ones, and a lot of just meditative, being in the moment kind of ideas.
He's such an interesting character. Like,
the guy's my guru. Don't let me slip up on a Rick Rubin interview, because I will watch it or listen to it. A couple others that this one is a good, again, nonfiction. The Forgotten Girls. It's subtitled A Memoir of Friendship and Lost Promise in Rural America by Monica Potts. Good stuff about this journalist who grew up in Arkansas, and she went the Ivy League route, and her friends went the early marriage, pregnancy, drug route. It's very touching and obviously real. I did read a piece of fiction I can recommend, a couple of pieces of fiction. The main one I think that I found very entertaining was Lone Women by Victor LaValle. It's a Western horror about these women out in Montana in early 1900s. Good stuff there. If you want anything that's out of 2023, or excuse me, out of a little older, I think one of the best books I read this year was Miss Jane by deceased author Brad Watson. He's only been passed away for a couple years. He's recently deceased. He was a professor at the University of Wyoming, but he was born and raised in Mississippi, and this book's loosely about an aunt of his who had a very particular genetic thing. You could probably find that pretty quickly if you wanted, but I won't spoil anything. And it's just this gentle handling of this girl who becomes a young lady, and this it could have been a very striking, debilitating thing.
Yeah.
But also very subtle. No one would ever know it. So it's so worth the read. It's so touching. It's so gently handled. If you didn't know, you would have never known it was a man writing about a woman. It's good stuff. Talk to me about events, concerts. What's the best concert you went to this year?
So,
LCD Sound System?
LCD Sound System is still number one for me.
Of
I went
course.
to a lot this year actually. I went to this artist that I don't know if you've heard of her. You probably have not. Her name, she goes by underscores. She is a hyperpop artist, which is a genre that is full of just like 17-year-olds like making really disgusting and not good music. But she's a
Oh yeah,
very
G.G. Allen started that. Just kidding.
she
If you've made it this far in the podcast and you did not get the G.G. Allen reference, then treat yourself, won't you?
oh, but she was a very hyperpop was a whole movement that happened in 2019, and she was a very
See, I'm unaware of this.
2019 to 2020 and like now into these years, it's kind of evolved and taken form of hyperpop and shoegaze more of.
Yes.
But
does it have some? Is it a distant cousin to shoegaze, or is there
very
more similarities
close.
than that?
Very close in the way of hyperpop is extremely fast, very ADHD heavy in the way that like you cannot listen to it when you are just like in the mood for something that's like chill and like calming. Like
It's
that's
like fast shoegaze.
yeah, kind of, yeah. And there are a lot of hyperpop artists like Jane Remover, who underscores actually collaborates with, who is just full on shoegaze now. Like she's just doing shoegaze, and she came from hyperpop and into that. But underscores released an album under the name of Wall Socket, which had its whole a whole ARG, which is like an internet kind of story behind it, and she had like lore to it essentially. And I really wanted to catch her in concert just because I've loved her music for 3 years now about and so me and a friend Ryan went to her concert in Atlanta at the Masquerade, and she was incredible. She was a solo performer. She got up on stage and had a screen behind her that was playing videos that were almost like a story. Like it started and it was a like prologue of like what to expect and like actual like lore behind like Wall Socket in the album, and then it went straight into the first song and the transitions were perfect. Like I've gone to a lot of concerts of indie bands where it feels like they're playing their music at you. To me, underscores was an experience. Like underscores going to a concert, I felt like I really, really went to something. Like I felt like this was a like show, like a performance. Like it really felt like it was like someone putting on something instead of like, oh, I'm booked for this venue and you can come listen to me like play music. Like it felt much different. And she was fantastic. And me and Ryan left that concert being like, yeah, that was like one of the best concerts we've ever been to. And she had like fake money that she threw out with like the album cover on it and stuff. Like it was super cool. That was a great experience. I saw
That's
a couple
good
of
recommendation.
other
Underscores with
underscores.
an S, right?
Yes, yeah. And the music is definitely not for everyone. It's a bit of a guilty pleasure for me to a certain degree, but also some like underscores herself is getting crazy critical acclaim. She's been at the top of the list for I think a couple of music outlets. I know Pitchfork really loved her this year, which I usually dislike Pitchfork, but you know
they've gotten better.
They've gotten some things, yeah.
They've gotten less stick up their ass a little.
Yeah,
They really
big
have.
time. But
so the last couple of years, they've gotten better with that.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, you're going to mention a couple more pieces of music that go beyond concerts, of course. Just there's some music that you're into.
Talking about a concert and an album that I both really loved. He's my favorite artist. He's my most listened to artist on Spotify. JPEG Mafia. He's a experimental hip hop artist that released an album with Danny Brown, which is another semi-experimental hip hop artist. He's a very influential person in like the rap game. But he made an album with JPEG Mafia where it was titled "Scarin' the Hoes," and it is a album that is full of just like insane production. JPEG Mafia is known for his just absolutely wild sampling. He sampled a 2000 or like I think it was like a 2003 like Japanese commercial that has been seen by like a total of 20 people probably. And only God knows how he found this sound clip, but he made like an entire beat out of it. It has
That
great.
sounds really Beastie Boys-esque.
It's similar in the
You
way
know,
of like
they would take
sampling
these
for sure, but
they take these very New York bits, and then if you Google them now, which you can, but back then you couldn't, and you just had this phrase walking around in your
yeah.
head.
But he's super intense. He is an artist that I will go and see wherever he is. I've seen him twice now, and I went to the Scare and the Host tour where Danny Brown performed as well, and that was a fantastic experience. JPEG Mafia is like my favorite stage performer by far. He's known for a bit of Gigi Allen, if you would. He's
Back on Gigi Allen now.
It always comes back to Gigi Allen.
Well,
but
apparently.
He's known for, if a fan insists, such as holding up a sign that says this on it or something. It's been a very common theme where he will spit in the mouths of fans.
Yes. This is how you and I got on the Gigi Allen thing.
Was it?
Yes,
that's
you told
such
me
a
about
full
this.
circle moment. That's funny.
Yeah, you told me about this probably back in April or May. And
yeah.
how funny. Yeah.
That
Okay,
is very
this
funny.
makes sense now.
But yeah, he's great. If you're into the hip hop genre at all and you want to branch out to something a little more crazy, he's definitely where I would go.
This is the year I've decided I love capital LOV, love rap. Love it. It took me a mere 47 years.
Yeah.
I always liked it. But my thing was, if I liked a rap song, I really liked it. But if I didn't, or if I was indifferent to it, then it was just off my radar completely.
What were some things you were listening to? Not even like year bound, like just kind of something you either really, really loved or.
I'm so into Run the Jewels.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Big time. I am. It's not kosher to say, but I still think Kanye's early to middle work is just astounding.
It's one of those things where you can't deny that. Like
you can't.
The things he's doing now sucks. Absolutely. I even hate his newer music.
It's not that
for
good.
sure. But you can't deny the ingenuity and just insane capability of his earlier music. It's really, it's still as good as it was. Like really and truly.
Do you know Gata?
I think I do.
Gata. He's primarily known for being on the show Dave.
Mm-hmm. I've
like
heard
him.
of him.
He's not as prolific yet. I don't think, but I don't know. I think there's a certain. I don't know what got me into it so much.
Yeah.
But I listen to rap every day, almost every day. Which is unlike me. I would usually listen to it, maybe a little bit once a week or something.
Just a personal recommendation.
Fire away, because that's one of the reasons why I brought it up.
Yeah, I think you may really love The Forever Story by J.I.D. Jid. He released that album, I think, last year, and it's quickly become one of my favorite rap albums, like, period.
Yeah, no, well, I was going to tell listeners, if you've got some good rap recommendations, I will take them. I'm still behind. I'm not prepared for music for some reason. Let's talk this. We got to burn Twitter to the ground. This has to be. I don't want to do that, but I mean, who am I to say do this, do that? But it's just so bad these days. It's the only interactions I ever get on there, and I've deleted my personal account, are from the Alabama Take. Of course, as I help run it. It's just bots, and it's just dumb bot stuff.
Yeah,
and I've noticed that, especially this week, actually these past 2 weeks, that Threads has really seemed to becoming maybe where people are finally going.
Oh, really?
It's not a ton better. It's basic, but it's got this. It's basically set up just like Twitter used to be.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just. Is this the year that Twitter is 2023? I think we asked the same thing last year's end of the year show. Is 2022 the last year for Twitter? Is 2023 going to be?
It's nearing the end.
It's gotta be.
It's nearing the end. I really think it is. I really truly think it is. In general, I'm just not a big fan of Elon Musk, just as a whole.
I mean, what's there to like at this point?
Yeah, no, not much. Not much.
I can give you if you're thinking about making the switch to Threads, go find no, if you're really thinking about making the switch to Threads, and if you're curious, does it have any of the appeal that Twitter did in its heyday? The guy Faux Polini is on there. It's one word, F-A-U-X, like faux, as in faux pas, or not the real thing, faux. Faux Polini. Very loosely based off Bo Pelini, the failed Nebraska football coach. But this killed me when I saw this. He retweeted, that's not the term, rethreaded a picture of someone, a news statistic that basically was like, every 2 minutes someone is in a drunk driving accident, and he writes above it as a retweet, "Dear God, someone take this man's keys away." And to me, that's how you use the medium. And I know that's an old joke.
I like it. But
it struck me so funny as...
Yeah,
I wish I could
that
find
is
it.
good.
I should have rethreaded
that is good.
it, honestly.
You
That way it would be on my page. But
is that really what they're calling it? Are they calling it rethreading it?
Well, I mean, you got to call it something.
Yeah.
I just call it retweet. Who gives a shit?
Yeah, at that point. That's why I have never heard one person call Twitter X. I've literally never heard it. And I will never say it.
Don't you dare. Don't you dare. If you call it that, you're dead to me. No. We haven't either. I think we've joked about it on this podcast how you just can't make yourself say it.
And such a stupid rebrand. Such a stupid rebrand.
It's so dumb. There was no point of that other than saying, "It's mine now," other than taking your basketball.
That's why he did it.
Yeah. It gives me a good opportunity to make a quick little segue here and say, December 31st, January 1st, the Alabama Take is off of Twitter. We're done. Find us on Threads or Blue Sky or TikTok. We're everywhere else. Everywhere else. You can find us, and you can find Taking It Down, the podcast, specifically us, the podcast, at all those places too. TikTok, Instagram, anywhere. Threads. Like I said, I think I'm making the transition to Threads. It seems to be, and
there's better social media apps.
There's better, but it's just getting the same group of people together is the trick, and I think that's what everyone's bemoaning here. As you see so many people on Threads saying, "I lost 5,000 followers, and I'm having to start from scratch, and where are they?" And there is that, and I get it, but it'd be okay.
Yeah.
What are you looking forward to in 2024?
2024.
I've got a big one, and I can't wait. And I start? You want me to?
Yeah, you start.
True Detective, January 14th-ish. New season. Jodie Foster, Alaska, Dead of Winter, something. I mean, that's not the name of it. It's True Detective : something, which is slipping my mind. But I don't tell me no more. They have my attention.
Yeah, I did not know they were still releasing seasons, because I'm still a firm true believer of I've only seen season 1, and I haven't held a whole ton of interest in the other seasons, just because that season 1 is such a monumental high of television that I don't know if I want to taint it by watching the other ones.
This one seems promising. The brief trailer I've seen is very Jodie Foster looks to be a sheriff type person, middle of winter Alaska in those 24-hour darkness periods. Looks good.
Yeah, that sounds very interesting.
Just the vibe alone seems good. True Detective something, and listeners can berate me about not knowing my shit, but it's something. I don't need to know because I'm bought in. 20 and that's only a few weeks away too, by the way.
Yeah, that's not far.
2024 though, for you, anything? Music, books,
movies? I can't think of a ton. In terms of movies, I'm really blanking pretty hard on that.
Which is
Dune,
odd because
Dune Part 2.
It's pronounced done.
Are you being serious?
Just kidding. No, I'm not being serious. That was a running joke. Shout out Savannah Reese. That was a running joke that Gilda and Savannah and I used to have. Yeah, Dune Part 2. That's in what, March or
Yeah,
May?
I think around there. Yeah.
Okay.
Excited for that.
You think? Yeah.
Excited for Maxine. The third entry into the X, Pearl, and Maxine trilogy, by Ty West.
I'm not familiar.
Really?
No. Yeah. Was that what is that?
X
Movie?
X was a horror movie in 2022, I think.
And is now a social media site.
It is.
Also horror.
And yeah, very similar. And it was really good. And then they made Pearl, which is a spinoff the same year. And it grew to like critical acclaim. Mia Goth got a big publicity boost off of that movie.
Some
and they're
indie
releasing
horror. Are we talking about?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. A24.
Okay.
So semi indie, but yeah, very very excited for Maxine, which is the third one in that. I could be wrong, but is the new Bong Joon-ho film coming out next year? Or is that with Robert Pattinson? Mikey 17 or Mickey 17? I don't remember if it's 2025 or 2024.
You would know.
Let me see real quick.
More than I.
I'm very interested in that. As you know, I love sci-fi and I love Robert Pattinson. Yep, it's 2024. So that's going to have Steven Yeun, Mark Ruffalo, Toni Collette, and Robert Pattinson, which
what a cast.
Fantastic cast. Yeah, big time.
Those are very lovable actors for me. Maybe the new Joker movie?
Oh, yeah. I'm interested in it. I'm very curious how they go with that in terms of a musical.
It really, yeah, well, there's that. But it really felt like you could put a period on what they did.
I agree.
In the first one.
I agree. I completely agree.
The new Roadhouse with Jake Gyllenhaal.
Yep. Yeah.
Probably coming out in 2024, seems to be.
There's still 2 movies that I haven't checked out in 2020. Well, 3 movies, actually, that I haven't checked out in 2023 that I really need to. Poor Things with Emma Stone, Yorgos Lanthimos.
Yes, he's good.
Yeah, he's fantastic. The Iron Claw, which also just released, and I've
Same.
heard great things about it.
Would totally watch right now if I could get to the theater.
Same. And
in fact, I might get to the theater this week.
And I still have not seen Killers of the Flower Moon.
Me either.
I still have not, and I need to because I know it's great.
We focus pretty heavy on TV and streaming here, so kind
of sucked up a good bit of your time.
We tend to wait for it to land on.
Okay.
Probably Apple is where it's going to land.
Yeah.
Yeah. Furiosa. Did you
like? Oh yeah.
Did you like the Mad Max?
Just rewatched Mad Max Fury Road last night. With a couple of friends who hadn't watched it before. Holds up really well.
I liked it.
Still a perfect movie for me, in my opinion. Still
fantastic. I was
fantastic.
in the theater and felt like I was not going to top that experience, so I never watched it again. But not because of a bad reason. Just
it's great. And Furiosa looks great to me. I think
it kind of does.
I think it's gonna be good. I'm excited for it.
New Deadpool. If anybody cares about
Wolverine. That's one that I'm interested in for sure.
I'm only interested because they got Hugh Jackman back. Yep. So surely they had a enough script.
Literally the only reason.
I'm not crazy about the Deadpool character in the least.
I agree.
Spaceman, Adam Sandler.
Oh yeah, didn't a trailer just get released or like images of that? I saw that. Yeah.
Yeah, very little, just barely a teaser. If you want
to
call it that.
That is very interesting. Yeah.
Spaceman. It is you just don't know much about it. It's got Paul Dano and Carey Mulligan in it. Paul Dano in a movie. Okay.
Yep.
I might do it up. All right. Well, there's plenty more. Your big blockbuster stuff, I'm kind of trying to avoid a little.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's Mean Girls. Is this a reboot? Or is this
It's a reboot into a musical series. It's like what I would call like a reboot and a reformat almost. Because it's going into a series. I don't even know what it's streaming on. And it's like a musical now. And it's also meant to be like for Gen Z. Like it like uses social media more and like everything about it seems...
You just said words to me that I don't know how they could be combined. But okay, fair. We'll figure this out.
Yeah, everything about it to me seems so not up my alley.
Tina Fey is still involved.
She
right?
is. I think she's like being branded as the creator of it.
No, she created the original.
But I think like she's still being branded as like the creator of like the remake. Like I think she's still like.
Well, there's hope.
Yeah,
if she's involved,
the original's good. So
the original's good. It's fun. It's good. Yeah. It's still quotable. And I can remember my wife made me watch that in college. Not made me. It was before we were even dating, so I watched it because I knew she liked it. And I was like, oh, this isn't nearly as silly fluff as I thought. This is actually pretty good.
Yeah.
So, yeah, maybe there's hope. There's hope. If Tina Fey's involved, it could work.
See, it's just, to me, like that, one last thing is like, the cultural significance of Mean Girls can only be fully realized when you go and rewatch Mean Girls now. Because I think when you do that, because I watched Mean Girls for the first time 2 years ago. Oh. And I realized like so many things that I've been quoting and like saying and so many things other people have been quoting is from this movie. So I think something that could easily be lost is that like
it's
influence.
It's in the zeitgeist now.
Yeah.
So that happens, and you go back and you catch. Oh, that's where it's from. Speaking of that's where it's from. That's it for this episode. If you're listening day of release, hey, have the best New Year. We're going to be back next week to talk more TV and streaming, and don't forget the YouTube segment. If you ever wish, there's a shorter segment. It's video only. It's on YouTube for the Alabama Take. That's where you find it. But you can also play any podcast. There's no visuals to go with the audio versions of the podcast, but you go there, you can subscribe, see that they're waiting on you, or just go to your favorite podcast app and they're waiting for you there. I'm Blaine. Ty has joined me. Very generous with his time. I
enjoyed it. Always enjoy coming on.
We always get a little carried away. This was supposed to be a short episode. I hope you enjoyed it, folks. Next week.